You're listening to Last Word Radio, where you get the last word.
Welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of the Alberta Podcast Network, powered by ATB. This is January the 14th, 2019. With you today is myself, Carl, and live and in person, Nick.
Hey, that's a good nickname.
Live and in person, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're coming to you live from, I guess not live, just in person for them. like you're live. We're coming to you from your hotel room.
Yeah, you and I are live.
We are
right
live
now.
Right here. Our first in person. Joel, unfortunately, had a work thing come up last minute, and we recently found out he wouldn't be with us tonight. But we're carrying on.
Do you think it was work, Carl, or could it have been the score of that Maple Leafs game?
You know what? I'm not going to put anything past him at this point. That's for sure. The Leafs giving Carl Soderberg a hat trick. Losing 6-3 to the Avs. You know, I probably would have skipped. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would have said, you guys have to record yourselves tonight.
Yeah, right?
It would have happened.
I don't know.
Yeah. We're here. Welcome to Calgary.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying. Somehow I'm going to manage to see somehow less of your face than when we normally record, though.
Is it because I have to speak into the microphone with my back to you?
Yeah, that's exactly it. For everyone who's never tried to record a podcast in a hotel, one, the acoustics are miserable.
Oh, yeah.
We turned off the giant heater fan, so I don't know what's going to happen to the temperature by the time we're done this.
It's going to be cold, I think.
Yeah. We're gonna be pulling the blankets off the bed just to share separately by the time we're done here. But very excited to have you here to record this week's show. Welcome to town. And before we get into the rest of the show, let's remind everyone about ATB. That's the official bank of the Alberta Podcast Network and the official bank of the Fourth Line Podcast as well. We are very excited to partner with them because they are excited to partner with hockey in our communities. If you go to atb.com/hockey, you can see all of the ways that they support hockey in your community, especially if you live in Alberta. But the amount of people that benefit from that, from you choosing them as a bank, is fantastic. And that's one of my favorite ways. There's many great things about ATB, but that is most certainly one of them. Lots happened this week. We're at the halfway point of the NHL season.
Yeah, just passed it.
So we're gonna look this week and see where we're at. Some players got in trouble, got suspended. Some players retired officially. We're gonna put another team in the elimination station as well. We will pick our Pavel Bure's. But first, Sergei Bobrovsky. He is not with the Columbus Blue Jackets for some of his games this week. He missed some time because of a little confrontation he had. But they said it wasn't because of the confrontation he had with John Tortorella, but it was.
So I think I read an article today. I think some details started to come out. They were mad because when he got pulled, he went right into the dressing room, took his gear off, and jumped in the shower. And normally when a goalie gets pulled, he's got to stay on the bench in his gear in case the backup gets hurt or needs to leave the ice for whatever reason. With Bobrovsky not there behind the bench with his equipment on, if something had happened to the backup goalie, then they wouldn't have had anyone to go into the net.
Right. They would have had to call in like Torts could have jumped in.
Torts could have jumped. He could have just scared everyone away from shooting.
Yeah. Or just, at that point in the game, if Bobrovsky's not good enough to play and the backup's hurt, just play with 6. That's fine.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that I look at with this was not the punishment of him, having to sit out a game, but the fact that, with him being a free agent this year and looking at what the Blue Jackets are going to do, obviously they'd love to retain him. They'd love to retain Artemi Panarin, another pending free agent. And I know, it's already assumed that Panarin's not coming back, but Bobrovsky, they kind of held out hope.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the writing's always kind of been on the wall, but it's very, very clear now. Very legible, I would say. I think that, I don't know, with a goalie of his caliber, if they could have locked him up earlier, they would have. And I think the fact that they haven't yet is pretty telling about where Bobrovsky's at.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot that they, if they could, they would want to. But for me, he said that he wants to be with this team. This is the team that he's been with. And, to be fair, that this is the team he's had his only success with, right? He's played with the Flyers before, but a very short stint. So for me, I look at it and this is his chance to make a legacy with the team, right? I think he's not a spring chicken. And especially as a goaltender, the amount of time that you're going to have much shorter than with another player. So for me, I look at it, this is his chance to make a legacy. And if this is the note I would want to leave town on. This
isn't the note you'd want to leave town
on? No, most certainly not. No.
You sure?
Yeah, I try not to leave. I know when you leave Calgary tomorrow, you're just going to leave a burning wreckage behind you.
Yeah.
But I'm not like you, Nick.
A wreckage of flames?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that we're getting to a point in the NHL too where a legacy with one single specific team isn't as important to players anymore. Like, players are a lot more willing to move around and jump around, and a lot of them will chase the money wherever that's going to take them. But you don't see very often a player stay with a single team for their entire career. Do you?
Very, very rarely. Like, I think even if you look at recently retired players, like even Jarome Iginla, right? A guy who tried as hard as he could to play his entire career with the Flames. He played, a season with the Bruins?
Yeah.
And then 3 seasons with Colorado and LA.
Did he not play with Pittsburgh too?
That was at the deadline, right?
Yeah.
So it was a deadline to Pittsburgh, and then Boston, and then Colorado. So even that, right? A guy that you think of as like a long-term player, he doesn't even play his entire career there. So I think like the closest we'll get is Lundqvist, right? He's not leaving New York unless he wants to.
Well, he should want to, in my opinion, but It doesn't sound like he's going to.
Oh, the Sedins did it.
Yeah, the Sedins did it.
But again, like they were good enough and tailored, or like kind of tailed off near the end of their career. But that's kind of the only one. And that was such a different situation, right? Like if Bobrovsky's brother was on the Blue Jackets, that might change things.
The Sedins were also very embedded in the Vancouver community. They had a lot going on there in terms of charities and a lot of community stuff, which I think creates a stronger tie with the city and makes them want to leave less.
Absolutely, yeah. Much less so than Bobrovsky.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So, yeah, I get that. But so where do you think he ends up by the end of this year? Like, do you think he's gone by the deadline? Do you think he sticks around?
No, I don't think the Jackets are going to move either him or Panarin. I think that they're going to do the quote unquote self rental thing. This is as close as they're going to be in the next 3 years without these guys. So you might as well take advantage of them while they're here and go for it.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if you're losing both of them, right? Like Korpisalo, good backup, but nowhere near good enough to replace Bobrovsky full time.
Especially not through the playoffs.
Yeah. Panarin, their best skater, and losing him, and especially when now if you're treating them as your rentals, you're losing them for nothing, right? And so to let them just walk, it's going to be a long road ahead for the Blue Jackets, I feel. Yeah,
I think so too. I mean, the only pro to keeping them as your rental is you're not giving up assets for a different rental. But yeah, letting them walk away hurts. I think they're still kind of chipping away at Panarin and trying to convince him to stay, but it doesn't sound like he's into the city of Columbus that much.
Well, there was that company offering him free vodka if he stayed. So we'll see. Maybe that's enough to entice him to stay. It wouldn't be for me.
No.
Like, I feel like Artemi Panarin will get paid enough that he can buy his own vodka. Or whatever he chooses to drink. He might not be a vodka man.
No, maybe he's not.
Yeah, we'll put him in touch with some guys.
The Russians normally are, but...
Yeah, let's not... I don't want to stereotype him, though. Maybe he branches out.
Yeah. Maybe he's one of those rosé drinkers.
He's just crushing some rosé back in the locker room after him and Bobrovsky leave early. Just sneak. It's like the Red Sox a few years ago when they got in all that trouble for just sneaking into the clubhouse and drinking.
Yeah.
That's them, but with some rosé.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to the wrong audience. Speaking of like a Blue Jacket, though, Rick Nash retired this week as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that was a guy who, if he hadn't have been in Columbus, I think his legacy would have been much different, right? He was outside of Columbus. His legacy is a guy that just like, to me, good player, was the best player on that Blue Jackets team for his entire time there.
For sure.
And then went to New York and just never could really, that was the back end of his career. Had some health issues. He said he retired because of concussions, which I don't doubt that. I don't blame anyone for retiring for concussion reasons. But that's kind of what you had for Rick Nash. So how will you remember Rick?
That amazing goal he scored in Columbus where he like split the D and completely deked them out of their pants and scored. I don't remember who it was against, but I just have the image of him completely deking out the D and scoring it. That's how I'm going to remember Rick Nash. He was so good on that Columbus team.
Yeah, it was, and it was at the same era as Jerome McGinley, right? And so you had Jerome doing his own thing in the Western Conference with no support around him. Rick Nash doing his own thing with no support around him in the Eastern Conference. And just these two guys that if you ever could get some support together, it would have been spectacular, right? Like what they could have done with a supporting cast. I always wish that we could have had that.
It was against the Coyotes. He triple deked around two defensemen and then just walked around the goalie.
It's almost like Jake Gardner was one of those defensemen. This is why Joel's not here, isn't it?
I should have known we wouldn't make it through the whole episode without at least a couple digs.
I mean, my team's lost 10 of their last 9 games. 10 of their last 9, that's how bad they are. They've played 9 games and lost 10 of them. They've lost 9 of their last 10 games. And when they beat the mighty Leafs, it's a reason to celebrate.
And Soderbergh got that hat trick.
And a Carl scored a hat trick, which, as far as I could tell, the first one ever. The first Carl hat trick. It's a good day to be me.
It's a good day to be a Carl. So was the Gardner goal the hat trick goal?
No, that was the first goal. The empty netter at the end was the hat trick goal.
Oh, of course.
But what, like, so aside from one goal against the Coyotes, which like I feel like there's a lot because didn't that like insane Ovechkin goal?
Oh yeah, that was a good goal too.
Was against the Coyotes as well, right? Where he was going down and like just backhanded it from his butt.
Yeah.
So I feel like we shouldn't maybe treat that as like the epitome of goals is a goal against the Coyotes. But if you're looking at what Rick Nash did, a lot of success internationally, right? Which like when you're playing on those Canada teams, I don't really look at it and be like, oh yeah, like Rick Nash was the reason, but he was part of those. We'll remember him as that. But I do wish that he had a little bit more support so that we could remember Rick Nash. Like he put up 50 goals. That's in an era where very few people were doing that. I just wish that he could have had like somebody else except for late stage Sergei Fedorov on his team.
I don't think he put up 50 goals.
Well, there you go.
Rick Nash.
Nick, the fact checker.
41 was his career high.
Is that what he had when he won the
Richard Trophy?
The Richard Trophy?
Yeah, 41 goals.
There you go. He won the Richard Trophy in an era where you only scored 41 goals. It's pretty good.
He did have a 79-point season in 78 games in Columbus, and most recently had a 69-point season with the Rangers, which is pretty good. But he hasn't played a full season in a long time. Like, he seems to always be hurt.
Yeah. That's for sure a thing. And obviously that's why he retired early, right?
Yeah.
And so we get to the Rick Nash. I don't know, looking at those numbers and going through those, maybe I'm just misremembering. Because, like, maybe I just want him to be good. Because when you're like, yeah, he had he had just over a point a game, but never, like, a point per 82.
No.
Cracked 40. How many times did he crack 40? Once?
Points or goals?
Goals.
Twice. 3 times. His 69-point season in New York, he scored 42 goals.
Okay, and that would have been, what, his second season in New York?
Third, 2014-15.
Okay. Yeah. I guess, and he did have, like, a good surrounding cast in New York there.
Yeah, he did.
Which made it a bit better. So I don't know, maybe I do need to skew my perspective of Rick Nash, but he was a guy that I loved. I love, like, he's kind of an era of a guy that's, like, disappearing, right? Just like that big forward that puts up all the goals. That's not a guy who's going to do it much, right? We saw Milan Lucic just scored his second. Yeah. That's the thing that we're not going to see anymore.
A Milan Lucic goal?
A Milan Lucic goal, but Milan Lucic was the guy that was like, I'm going to be Rick Nash. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And then he gets there and he's like, oh, I can't do that anymore. I can't score 42 goals. That's not a thing that I can do.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, Rick Nash had speed that someone like Lucic doesn't.
True. He combined them, right?
He was a skater, yeah.
He combined his size and what he could do in front of the net with the skating ability. Right? Milan Lucic is not splitting any defensemen, even if one of them is Jake Gardner.
Yeah. Correct.
For sure.
So, yeah, I don't know. Rick Nash, I think he had a great career. His career numbers, 1,060 games played, 437 goals, 805 points. He's a solid player. He was amazing when he was at his prime. You know, unfortunately, injuries took a toll on him. I really thought he was going to make a late season comeback this year. Kind of waited out to see which teams would be a front runner to be a contender, and then sign there for the remainder of the year. But sounds like the injuries were too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad that Rick. I kind of also same thing. Hoped he could have made a late season comeback, but glad that he's able to take care of his health before it gets too late. Hopefully, so as we said, we're mid-season, Nick. We're halfway through the year, and a lot of teams are starting to realize. I think we'll touch on this a little bit more in some later episodes, but just kind of a lot of teams are already out of it. Like, there's a lot of teams that you look at the standings and you're like, yeah, that team's not making it. That team's probably not making it, and we're doing that. But if we're looking at NHL awards and we're looking at kind of who we would hand those out to, kind of, you know, I know recency bias plays a big part in it, right? Whoever has the best second half of the season is probably going to win.
Yep.
But as we start into this, let's start with the Hart Trophy. An award last year won by Taylor Hall. And for me, I'm going to give a guy who lost the award last year. And I know we saw him in tonight's Leafs game, put on a good performance. Nathan MacKinnon is my choice for the MVP, most valuable player to the league this year, Nathan MacKinnon. He has made Mikko Rantanen a superstar. Mikko Rantanen is a good player, do not get me wrong, but he is not as good as he is. He has led that Avalanche team, and aside from Carl Soderberg scoring 3 goals once ever, there's nothing else on that Avalanche team, and he has them in a playoff spot. So for me, Nathan MacKinnon is the player, not just from the perspective of, like, most valuable as, like, best, but he is genuinely the player who is the most valuable.
No. Come on. He's one of 3 players carrying that team through the season. I don't think he's the guy who's doing it. I mean, you watch more than I do, but...
So I watched... Which game was it? There was a game very recently where, like, Rantanen was just mediocre, and you could see Nathan MacKinnon was the only one getting mad at the coach for the team not doing well. He's trying to pull them to a playoff spot. You don't see Mikko Rantanen yelling at Coach Bednar. Probably because he doesn't have a place to. And that's because he's not the best player on that team. The best player on the team can get away with that. So for me, when I watch it and I see, like, Nathan MacKinnon, just his speed, his skill, what he can do leading that team, his on-ice presence, but not presence per se as just like what he can do mentally with the game. I think his mental side is very strong. He's leading the team in ice time this year. And those are just some of the reasons. But I know that I can't trust the Detroit Red Wing to give an award to a Colorado Avalanche. So who are you taking then?
I don't know. I was looking at this earlier. I don't know what the right answer is. Like, Nikita Kucherov maybe would be a candidate. John Tavares, maybe.
I feel like Tavares, for the same reason last year that I thought that no one on Tampa should win, and I feel the same way now, is that like it's hard for a genuine award that's a most valuable player to be given to a guy on a team that's that heavy, right? Like last year when it was like Hedman should win the Norris and Vasilevsky should win the Vezina. And then somehow we're going to give a most valuable player award to Kucherov. I feel like that still applies to the Lightning and probably to the Leafs as well.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I mean, Connor McDavid should probably be in the conversation.
Where are you at? I don't know. I don't remember if you and I have had this conversation or us have had this. Where do you feel? Does the MVP have to make the playoffs?
No. I mean, I feel like an MVP is dragging his team into the playoffs. So most of the time they're probably there. But I don't think they have to be in the playoffs, no.
So like last year, Connor McDavid did not win. Arguably should have, right? I think if you were to just objectively look at it, he was and still is the most valuable player to any team in the league.
Yeah.
So if they're there, do you have him? Would you put him as the MVP? They're just out of it right now.
Probably. And it sounds like they're going to make a push to get in.
Yeah, what is the deal with the Edmonton Oilers and their playoff push? We saw Ryan Rishaug tweeted out that they're on a full court press now to add a forward.
Yes. They're all in for a playoff appearance, which I thought was funny because what's the point of making the playoffs if you're just getting there to be there?
I feel like that's an entire management system that feels like it's their last chance. Like, we're all getting fired. They're cleaning house if we don't make the playoffs. Because you don't give Peter Chiarelli the go to be like, yeah, full court press. We want this. Knowing that, to mortgage assets for the future to make just one appearance. It's not the best of plans.
No, I think it's hilarious how they worded that. Their push is for a playoff appearance.
Yeah.
not to make any kind of noise in the playoffs, just to get there.
But I also feel like, because when they did it, 2 years ago, they had success as a team that, came out of nowhere, as much as you can come out of nowhere with Connor McDavid, and managed to pull that off and have success, and they saw how exciting the fan base got. And so I feel that they just want to try to rekindle that no matter whatever it takes, which is apparently trading somebody, some of their prospects, whoever that may be,
or a first-round pick.
Or a pick next year, which, if you're trading, if you make the playoffs, that's great. If you make that trade and still miss the playoffs, you better lottery protect that pick.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, let's move Vezina. Goaltender of the year. And there have been a lot of good goaltending performances this season, right?
Yeah.
And you look around the league, but even still, we saw tonight, right? This game right now, granted it's Oilers Sabres, it's 7-2. We saw an 8-5 game earlier tonight. There was a 7-4 game with the Wild and the Flyers, 6-3 Colorado and Toronto. Tonight is a small sample size, is a high scoring game, but scoring in general, to me, there's no one goaltender that's really outshone everyone else. We've had guys, Vasilevsky's had injury problems. Freddie Anderson, he just came back from a few weeks away. Where are you sitting?
I don't know. It's so hard to measure because the amount of games that the starting goalies plays vary so much. Like, what about someone like Robin Lehner's played in 23 games, and he's got one of the best save percentages in the league. But he's only played in 23 games. So where do you draw that line, I guess? It's hard to make a midseason prediction for this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Ben Bishop, maybe? Ooh, I don't know if they want to give it to the Stars.
Yeah, that's probably...
I regret. Edit that part. Edit that out.
Okay, that part's gone. Yeah, there's a lot of places where things can still go the rest of the season, for sure. As we're looking at these goalies, like, to me, in the same way, I don't think a goalie can win the Vezina and not make the playoffs. I would hand one, but like John Gibson, to me, is the most deserving of the best goaltender, right? With the team playing in front of him, he has been the best goalie. As much as you talk about a guy dragging his team to the playoffs, if the Ducks make the playoffs, it's not Randy Carlyle who got the vote of confidence this week, which, the dreaded vote of confidence. It's John Gibson. He's the reason that team will make the playoffs, and so to me, that's who I'm handing it to.
Well, they'll have to win a game again to make the playoffs.
I think by the end of January, they'll win again.
Oh, man.
I'm going out on a limb here.
Yeah, another 2 weeks for Ducks fans to suffer through that, eh?
Yeah. I think, my Avalanche in the middle of, we're one win away from being on the exact same streak.
Yeah.
Right? And no one would be, I'm sure someone would be calling for Jared Bednar's head to be fired, but I don't think there's any reason to. Randy Carlyle, I would not be surprised to see him fired at this point, though.
No, me neither.
I think that's definitely a thing that we could have happen. Yeah, the Ducks, I'd give it to John Gibson. He's my pick for the Vezina. So you would go, is Robin Lehner your pick?
I don't think he's played in enough games. I don't know. I have a real hard time with this one. Freddie Anderson.
I think my finalists would probably be Freddie, Gibson, and maybe Vasilevsky would be the ones that I would put in there. So
yeah, I'd agree with that.
I could also give I wouldn't be disappointed if it was like a Marc-Andre Fleury as well. I could get behind that.
I mean, he's been good in the stretch lately, but like you said, this is where recency bias kind of comes in.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll see, as especially, an injury problem comes up. If Freddie misses more time in the second half, as Vasilevsky misses some more time, that kind of hurts both of them. But you would think both of these teams have now shown that they can marginally pull it together. The Leafs played fairly okay with Michael Hutchinson in there.
Yeah.
I know they lost, 4 of 6 the last little bit. Now, with Freddie back, 5 of 7. But you have to give Freddie time off, right?
Oh, for sure.
You can't play him as much as Babcock wanted to down this stretch. So I think that'll play a big part, is who can stay healthy. Is there a point in having a Calder conversation?
No.
Okay, we'll just hand it to Elias Pettersson.
Yeah.
Because I was even thinking, as we were starting this, I don't even have any thoughts on who would be second for me.
No, I don't even know. I don't know who's even in the same conversation as him this year when it comes to rookies.
So he could miss another stretch of games and we would still be handing him the Calder.
100%.
I think if he would just stop now, if he's like, I'm going home, I'm going to go hit the showers, Travis Green's going to suspend me for the rest of the season, he would still get the Calder. It's not even close. So congratulations, Elias Pettersson. You have won. We'll just start engraving that for him now.
Yeah.
The Norris, best defenseman in the league. And this is one that, obviously the media, it's easy to look at points, right? There's a lot of times where the leading point getter wins the Norris, and then it takes a while for a Drew Doughty to win it. Mm-hmm. Where do you sit?
This one's always the toughest, right? Because you can't measure defensemen purely based on offense. So I don't know. This one is never an easy one to predict. I think his name's escaping me. The Calgary defenseman's having an amazing year this year.
Giordano.
Yeah.
That was kind of that would have, not even an underdog. That would probably be my, I don't like this pick, but that's who I'm going with.
Yeah. I think he's up there, and I guess for the third time I'm going to name another Leaf, but Morgan Rielly is also having a really good year.
Yeah. For sure. I think those two would be, as of right now, finalists for sure. Morgan. Again, the points perspective, right? How he did. And he did a lot of that at the start, but let's not forget that, right? Let's remember what he did in October and what he does in March. Yeah, I think for me, Gio would probably be, as much as I don't like it, Gio would be the one that I'd be going with.
Yeah, I think he's a front runner. And then the other one who always makes his way into this conversation is Erik Karlsson, and he's had a pretty amazing stretch of games since I think he was suspended a few weeks ago. It's hard to keep up with West Coast news.
Yeah.
But he's had a pretty good stretch of games, and depending on how he finishes out down the stretch and through the playoffs, I think he could eke his way back into this conversation too.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's the thing. That whole Sharks team is really, they're not the juggernaut that I think a lot of people thought they were, but they have all season to sort it out, right? Like,
yeah.
You have all of these teams. The fact that you presently, in a lot of situations, they have, Vlasic, Burns, and Karlsson on different D pairings is ridiculous. Like, you don't get an off shift.
Yeah.
When they're running that kind of a line. So get those guys ready for the playoffs. It's almost like that Pacific Division's so bad that it's almost like the Warriors in the NBA, where they just or the LeBron Cavs, where they're just like, look, we're just gonna play for the playoffs. We're just gonna get there, and then we'll peak like March 1st.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think they can add at the deadline if they wanted to. And that they can still, I don't know what they would be wanting to bring in, but
yeah, I don't know if they need to.
But that's the kind of thing where, look at where they're at come the deadline, see if there's something comes up for them, because they have pieces, right? They have those pieces that they got, even a small piece, the pieces that they got for Mike Hoffman,
yeah,
right? Those are things, those second, third round picks. Some of those guys could be in play for them on a short rental. So
yeah, the Sharks are going to be okay. I think the big question mark is it's not this year; it's for next year and whether or not Erik Karlsson decides to come back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But they can. I still think that they're the leader in the clubhouse. I'd say 50% chance or greater that he goes back to San Jose.
Yeah, I think now that he's found his groove and starting to feel better, especially if they can have a good playoff run, I think he'll probably stay.
Yeah, that seems likely. Do you have a thought on, I know that this is the one that is usually just which team was terrible last year and is good this year, but Jack Adams, Coach of the Year. Do you have any thoughts on who has been the best coach this year?
You give it to the coach who's had the best goalie of the year.
That's fair as well. So what, we're giving it to Trotz? That seems fair. He's taken the Islanders and made them a playoff team.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think that's a reasonable thing. He is a good coach, which is another good quality, right?
Yeah.
Just won a Stanley Cup. Is a good quality coach. Yeah, I think that's a very good call there for not Mike Trotz. I don't know who Mike Trotz is.
Barry Trotz.
Barry Trotz. Yeah.
Barry Trotz, probably, because it's not going to be Randy Carlyle.
It's not going to be Randy. And I think you look at some of these teams that continually perform, and none of them are fantastic performances. I think you could maybe see, in Calgary, I think you could see a Jack Adams Award handed out there as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good option too, actually. And then Mike Babcock still doesn't have his Jack Adams Award. I don't know what's going on there or when that's going to happen, but I think his name's always going to get tossed around.
Yeah. I can only imagine the reaction out of Carolina. Bill Peters, just mocked and ridiculed, leaves, comes to Calgary, and wins a Jack Adams.
With two of the players he coached in Carolina.
Yeah. I kind of want it. I like Carolina still. They're not my bandwagon team. I don't really have one, but I still have an affinity for those guys down there. And I don't want them to have to deal with that. They have enough terrible things going on. That fan base is a hot mess of sadness. It's not good down in Carolina, Nick.
It's because every year we all tell them this is Carolina's year. They have the pieces. They're going to the playoffs.
Yeah, they're so broken they don't listen to the rest of us anymore though. I think they've turned off mainstream hockey media, and it's just them and Peter Forsland is their announcer down there. I think it's just them and him, and they just do Hurricanes hockey and celebrate in a fun way. Especially now that mainstream media just criticizes them for celebrating. Like, why would you tune into that?
Have they started criticizing them now?
Mainstream? Oh yeah, you've seen that a lot.
I thought everyone was on board with it when they started.
I think the fans are, but you started to see some backlash for sure from like the old regime of like don't have fun playing hockey.
Yeah. People who don't know how to have fun.
Yeah. There you go. So I would probably give it to Trotz for the Jack Adams. Bill Peters would be another good one there.
Okay, so who's your dark horse candidate for the King Clancy Memorial Trophy?
King Clancy is always one of my favorite trophies. I refuse to go to bed on NHL Awards night until they hand out the King Clancy.
So you can go to bed after the first award.
Probably. Can you just remind? I know what the King Clancy is, but can you remind the listeners what is the King Clancy Award for?
Of course, the King Clancy Memorial Trophy is for leadership and humanitarian contribution.
I believe that, and this is a local bias that I have. I think Travis Hamonic should get that award every single season.
Yeah,
that guy does a ton for the community. He did in New York. He does here. Travis Hamonic should get that award.
Well, there you go.
I was genuine.
I was not expecting a sincere answer to that, but thank you.
You have to pick the charitable award. I can't just poo-poo people's charitable efforts. There you go. Who are you picking for the King Clancy there?
Oh, you just talked me into Travis Hamonic.
There you go. So there you go. Calgary's going to get all the awards. Gio's winning the Norris. Bill Peters is winning the Jack Adams, and Travis Hamonic is winning the King Clancy. So
all the big ones.
This is the big three. They've cleaned up. We had a conversation earlier this week, and I feel like this was your kind of thought. You kind of started this up. You had an idea. You wanted something to come back to the NHL.
Yeah. Okay, so let me explain where this idea started. So last year, well, it hasn't just been last year, but the Detroit Red Wings have been very bad for the last couple of years.
Yeah, much longer than Red Wings fans would like to think.
Much longer than any of us would like to admit, yes. And Jeff Blashill is their head coach, and he makes a lot of questionable head coach decisions, things like lineup construction and when to challenge for goaltender interference. And I just remember thinking, after a loss one night, watching the post-game show, and anytime the Wings lost, Henrik Zetterberg always came out and took the media responsibility. Nobody else did. That guy just took it all on. And I remember just thinking, they should let Blashill go next year, and Henrik Zetterberg should just be the player coach for this team. And then I remembered that player coaches were a thing once upon a time. They'd pick a player, and he would be the coach, and sometimes he'd also be the GM.
He's the literal Jack Eichel.
Yeah. And I think the last one who did it, I think it was a Rangers player. I don't remember the name. I think it was sometime in the 80s. But I think it's time for the return of the player coach. And Henrik Zetterberg would have been a perfect candidate for that. Unfortunately, he had to retire this year, which kind of, put an end to that dream of mine. But there are plenty of players out there who would make perfect player coaches.
So who on the current Red Wings then? Because with Zetterberg gone, is there someone now that you think, like, not even just like if you had to pick a player coach, is there someone you would pick over Jeff Blashill at this exact moment?
Dan Bylsma, the assistant coach.
Okay. Do you think Dan could step on the ice still?
Probably.
Like, is that because that's another realm, right? Is that you could just take a coach and make him have to play?
Make him a player.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a possibility too.
Like, we talked about that earlier, right? That if Bobrovsky's in the showers and Korpisalo's hurt, John Tortorella, player goalie. Or goalie coach.
Goalie coach.
Goalie coach.
Goalie coach.
Which, like, sounds like, oh, he's coaching the goal. No, he's goalie and coach. It's terrifying. He cannot, he's in the butterfly the entire game. He just can't get back up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but I think there are, so for the Red Wings, you asked me, who would make a good player coach? It would probably be one of the vets, maybe like a Nick Cronwall would be the best coaching candidate among the players. Maybe Jimmy Howard.
Okay. Jimmy Howard, an interesting choice. I think because we saw the failure of the Roberto Luongo goalie captain.
Was that a failure, though, or was that a rule thing?
No, I think they took the C away from him.
Because I think it was something in the rule book, though.
Oh, was it?
The rules didn't allow goalies to be captains.
That's discriminatory. It turns out actually that there was one day, Arturs Urbe, 2014,
was
goalie coach.
No way.
Yeah.
2014?
Yeah.
See, we're closer than we thought, Carl.
He was the literal goalie and coach, and he signed a trio contract and then was the emergency backup that night. So we're close. It's happening.
We're close.
Yeah.
And then I look around the league and I think like Boston, Zdeno Chara would be the perfect player coach for that team.
Yeah, that guy's... He gets the team. The team loves him. They would play hard for Z.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure. It's got to be someone who... They don't have to be the best player on the team, but generally, they'd have some years of experience at the game under their belt. They kind of understand it. They understand the locker room dynamics, the rules.
Like, I think it's easy to just pick every captain as the player coach, right? But you need to think,
sure.
like, for Colorado, I think back with that example of when Bednar and McKinnon were getting into a fight, right? And you saw Gabe, like, trying to settle the situation. Sure, he pushed Nate off the bench unintentionally. He helped him back up, though, right? And that's what you want out of a player coach. You want a guy that will step out on the ice with you and then kind of get in the middle of things and try to do what's best for the team, not just for himself.
That's right. And because it's not about who knocks you down. It's about who helps you back up.
Wow. I need to write that down. That's going on a bumper sticker. The Fourth Line Podcast bumper stickers. It's not about who knocks you down. It's about who picks you back up.
That's right.
Remember
and Gabe
that,
will
kids.
always pick his friends up.
Gabe will, not just his friends, his teammates.
His teammates.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be friends with all your teammates, I guess.
You don't know. Like, I know the Fourth Line team. We're all friends here.
Yeah.
That's probably not true in a lot of locker rooms.
No, probably not.
No. Is there anyone else that stands out to you as like the ultimate player coach?
Oh, the ultimate player coach.
Like if we just go around the league, right? Let's
Sure.
look. We've got Oilers Sabres on right now. I know Jack Eichel sees himself as the coach, general manager, captain, and superstar player already. That's probably who I would like. I probably wouldn't give it to him, but like, there's also not a lot of like great veteran presence on that team.
No, there really isn't, is there? I gotta pull up the roster, but I mean, I would not name Jack Eichel my player coach.
No, your team would not go very well.
What about like Kyle Okposo? That guy's been through some times. Like, he's probably a good motivator.
Yeah, I could see that.
Oh my God, Jason Pominville's still on this roster?
That's their one veteran presence.
Woof.
Yeah. What Oilers? I know the easy answer is Connor McDavid, but I feel like with management being who it is, like if you still have the same GM, if Peter Chiarelli's GM and Kevin Lowe's still involved there, and all those pieces are still around, Chris Russell is going to be the Edmonton Oilers player coach.
Totally. Willing to put his body on the line every night?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going to play Chris Russell hockey, and it's going to be terrible. No one will want to watch it. But you're going to play a lot more physical. Milan Lucic is getting first-line minutes.
For sure. Zach Kassian, probably the assistant coach.
Truth. Yeah, he's running the power play.
He's running the power play.
Yeah. And Lucic can run the penalty kill. So I think we're set.
Well, there you go.
Looking around the Leafs, let's do one more team. The Leafs, a lot of great talent on that team.
But only one player coach, in my opinion.
Yeah?
Patrick Marleau,
Ooh.
player coach.
You're gonna select the team dad as the player coach?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's a fair choice. You know, Patty he'd have orange slices at intermission for all the boys. And he'd have them ready to go.
He'd have the post-game movie lined up
Yeah.
in the DVD player ready to go.
On their way to ice cream.
Yeah.
I know we lost tonight, guys, but you still get ice cream. It's fine.
Just don't tell your mother.
I don't know. Like, while he is the team dad, I don't know if Patrick Marleau has the personality to be the coach of that team. I think that he would let them get away with too much.
You think so?
Yeah, I think Patrick Marleau would.
So who do you think would hold them accountable?
I think it would probably have to be. I would pick Ron Hainsey over him. Ron Hainsey, not a good hockey player.
I think you lost a couple friends with that one.
That's fine. But like, he's managed to eke himself out a good little NHL career. The Leafs' biggest issue is defense. And just because he can't do it doesn't mean he doesn't know what to do.
I was going to say he's a big part of that issue.
Yeah, but he knows what to do.
Sure.
I just think, because like Jake Gardiner, sorry Jake, Jake's already turned off at this point, hasn't he, Nick?
Yeah, I think so.
Jake Gardiner, his issue is that he just makes mental errors. Ron Hainsey is just not very good. So that would be my pick would be Ron Hainsey. I think he would hold the team a little more accountable. Or maybe he's the assistant coach and Patrick Marleau's they play good coach, bad coach.
Good coach, bad coach. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely see Ron Hainsey after his playing career being an assistant coach behind the bench. So, yeah, I think he'd make a good player coach.
There you go. So that's our player coach. Let us know. Send in at Fourth Line Podcast, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com. Your player coach is for your teams. Who do you want to be the player coach?
Who would make a good player coach?
Yeah. Who do you think could take your team to success? And thank you. We got a lovely email from Night Train down in Vegas last week, giving us the inside scoop. We love getting your emails. We love interacting on Twitter as well. Email gives you a little bit more than 280 characters. So if you've got some lengthy thoughts, send them on in. Or, our DMs are open.
Yeah.
So
our DMs are open. Or even if you just have short thoughts, you can still email them.
You can. If you want to email us tweet-sized information, that's fine.
Yeah.
So, mail at thefourthlinepodcast.com or Facebook. Facebook.com/thefourthlinepodcast. Tell us your player coach. Nick, is the elimination station.
Elimination station.
Well, Nick, let's give you the floor as the guest in this city. We'll give you the first crack. Who are you taking with the elimination station this week?
For the second time since we started doing this, I'm taking the Los Angeles Kings.
Los Angeles Kings.
I'm not letting anyone talk me out of it this time.
Well, so they're currently second last in the league, but there's a lot of teams a very close distance. So you're telling me that right now I could not convince you that the Detroit Red Wings should make the elimination station?
No, you can't. And I'm just fact checking you again. They're dead last in the league right now.
Oh,
Los
so
Angeles.
things have happened that have changed. You know that I use the greatest app known to man, The Score.
Yeah.
For all my hockey needs. According to The Score, they're 30th.
According to NHL.com, they're 31st.
Well, there you go. Let's trust NHL.com instead of The Score app.
Either way, they're not in great shape.
No, they are not. I support the LA Kings going into the elimination station. So, the way that we look at this now, how do we fix the LA Kings? They're a team that has made terrible choice after terrible choice, building a roster around old players. Their big move of the offseason, Ilya Kovalchuk. Great trade piece.
Except for his no move clause.
You think he wouldn't waive it? You think that Ilya Kovalchuk's in there and he's like, I'm staying in LA.
I think he will ask them, please let me waive it.
Yeah. Anywhere.
And you just send me somewhere else. So I think he's very movable. They may need to retain some salary on that, but I don't think that'll kill them.
No, you look at the LA Kings and they're a team with, a lot of aging players. Kind of a window that's it has closed, right?
For sure.
Their cup runs are done. They're in a rebuild, but there's still guys on this team that I think if they're hoping that by the time they turn this around that they're still relevant, right? Like you need to hope that Anze Kopitar can still be a leader on this team, right? You're paying him $10 million a year and that contract's just getting started.
For a very long time. Yeah.
So like Anze needs to be still good. Who else on that team is a player that by the time this team is still around is going to be... Drew Doughty just started a brand new contract. So, like...
It doesn't actually start till next year.
So those are two that I'm looking at, and I'm like, those guys have to be present still. Unless you're just going full clean slate, but you're not,
But that's okay. If those are the two guys that you're going to hang it all on and you're going to keep them around, I think those are the two guys to do it.
Yeah, you're not putting all your hope into Jonathan Quick.
No.
And so for me, I look at it and I say to myself, okay, so who is going to still be on this team? And everyone else, much like always, everyone else is expendable. They have a lot of contracts that, are ending and they can move away from, but you need to start to rebuild those cupboards because they're pretty empty.
Yeah. Their cap situation is not terrible. There's some dollars becoming open in the next few years for them to kind of start to get creative and make some noise, especially if they can offload Kovalchuk.
But let's look at it this way then. Because Ilya Kovalchuk has what? 2 years left on this deal?
After this year, yeah.
Yeah, so 2 more years after this. And I look at that and I'm like, okay, so you're wanting that. If I'm moving out salary just to be able to, spend more money, why don't I just keep Kovalchuk?
I don't know. Maybe you're moving out salary to spend more money on a better player.
I guess.
A younger player with more of a future.
I guess, if I think, and I wouldn't do this if I was him, but if I think I can go get Artemi Panarin this offseason, absolutely, I'm going to try to move out some salary, right? If I think that I can pick up Erik Karlsson, convince him, hey, you like California so much? We're in California. Super weird coincidence. All of a sudden you've got Jake Muzzin, you've got Drew Doughty, you've got Erik Karlsson on that blue line. Doesn't matter who's playing in it. You could have Jack Campbell in there. You could have Jonathan Quick. You'll still do pretty well.
Yeah, for sure.
So if there's one guy that you're moving this offseason or this trade deadline, who is it?
Maybe a Jake Muzzin could probably bring them a decent return.
I saw on the Twitters earlier today, someone postulating that would be a thing, and the return would be pretty substantial, right?
Yeah, I think it would be a great return. And there's always a market for defensemen.
Yeah. And another, especially one with, not a long term, but term, right? You have him for next year. You trade for him now. You have him for the end of this year. You have him for a playoff run. You have him for next season. He's 30 years old. He likes it. You re-sign him, and now all of a sudden you got yourself a brand new fancy Jake Muzzin.
Yep.
I think that would be a great piece for them to move out. And they should be deciding to do that instead of trying to keep around their best players. For really, you have to play somebody, but I think, let the fans celebrate Dustin Brown. Let them do that.
Yeah, Dustin Brown. Speaking of players who may spend their entire career with one team.
Speaking of player coaches,
Dustin Brown, totally.
Dustin Brown, player coach.
Dustin Brown's going to be a head coach one day, and the sound bites are going to be amazing.
It's not going to be friendly for the kids.
No, it's not.
Oh, the Kings game's on. We gotta, kids, leave the room.
Yeah.
Luckily they play in the late time zone,
exactly.
So no one's watching. Yeah, I think Jake Muzzin would be a great piece to move. Obviously, you want to try to get, the expiring deals that are out there. Which, this team doesn't have a lot. They've got, Carl Hagelin.
Yeah.
You could get, a second? A third for Hagelin? And that's really, from the expiring perspective, that's really all that they have on this team that would net them anything of worth. So,
and honestly, that's fine, unless they're planning on extending him long term. You might as well get something, and I know the draft is kind of a crapshoot after the second round, but it gives you a shot at getting a possible NHL player for him.
Yeah, it's better than nothing, right?
It's better than nothing.
Yeah. So, Los Angeles Kings, welcome to the elimination station. I'm actually surprised that they made it all the way till week 3. So we've got joining them in the elimination station: Chicago Blackhawks, Ottawa Senators, and now the Los Angeles Kings. So
2 weeks too late.
They made it through the Christmas break, which was the real miracle. Long enough to, depending on which site you look at, not be in last place.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. We just didn't want to crush their Christmas dreams.
No, just we did that for the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chicago.
Well, the Blackhawks deserved it.
Yeah, they had it coming. All right, Pavel Bures. We pick our Pavel Bures. You head to Twitter. While you're done sending us your player coaches every day, except for some Mondays. This Monday we had it. Toronto and Colorado. That was our game of the day. I haven't looked yet. We'll see as we do this little blurb. I'll look up if anyone had 6-3 as the score for this. But what you do is you head to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast and you pick who you think is going to win the game of the day, which we will tell you what the high-sticking game is if you forget. Who you think will win and what you think the score is. So if you are like Minying Chu, who picked 6-3 for the Leafs, you get 0 points.
Ooh.
Yeah, sorry.
Rough.
No points for him. However, if you are like our friend, you know what? Brody. Brody picked 4-3 for the Avalanche. So he gets
Close.
a point for the win.
Yep.
And he gets a point for picking 3 goals for the Leafs. If he had to pick 6-3 for the Avalanche, he would have gotten a full 3 points. Friend of yours, friend of the show, other Carl. It's a good day for Carl, as we talked about. Carl Kresge.
Yeah.
He picked 6-2 Avalanche. He gets 2 points as well.
Oh. Go Carl.
So it's a great day to be a Carl. So we
mark it. January 14th.
January 14th.
International Carl Day? I don't know. International? Should it go international?
I mean, Carl Soderberg.
Yeah.
Swedish.
Yeah.
He plays for a team in the United States.
Yeah.
I live in Canada. It's International Carl Day.
It's international enough for me. All right, let's pick these games.
Okay. January 15th, Tuesday. There's a game that sticks out to me. There's a couple games. There's actually a number of good games this day. What are you picking?
Washington, Nashville.
Nashville was the first one that I said that for. If you had have said Vegas, Winnipeg, I also wouldn't have been upset at you.
Yeah, that was my second one.
Yeah, for sure. The next day, we have a flurry of medium games, but what I'm going Buffalo, Calgary.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Buffalo, a team, they were fantastic, right? They won 10 games in a row.
Yeah.
And now they're out of a playoff spot. Can they do it in Calgary? The last time a bad team came through Calgary, you watched the Coyotes lose 7-1.
Yeah, that was very bad.
So it's not good. There's another great schedule on Thursday games.
Thursday. Well, we already picked a Nashville game. So Toronto, Tampa.
Toronto, Tampa, yeah. Nashville, Winnipeg as well. Winnipeg's got a tough week.
Winnipeg
Vegas
does have a tough
Nashville.
week.
Brings us to Thursday, or Friday rather. I'm going to go with some teams fighting for some playoff lives. I'm going Montreal. Ooh. I was going to go Montreal, Columbus. But then we have Jack Adams Award winner Barry Trotz heading back to Washington.
Ooh. I like it.
So, which I believe, if my score app's not lying to me, and it never would, that would also be dangerously close to being a first-round playoff matchup.
Let's do it.
So, there you go. Islanders and Montreal.
No. Washington.
Islanders and Washington is the Friday game. Thank you, Nick. It's a good thing one of us is paying attention to the words coming out of my mouth. Islanders and Washington is the Friday game. Saturday, always a big schedule. What do you see?
Saturday. Do we finally pick the Winnipeg game?
Winnipeg, they have another tough game.
Winnipeg, Dallas.
Winnipeg, Dallas is a good one. San Jose, Tampa, good game. Pittsburgh, Vegas, Marc-Andre Fleury
against his old
team, and Calgary, Edmonton. They have a very
Alberta.
good.
Let's go Pittsburgh, Vegas.
Pittsburgh and Vegas. There you go. Marc-Andre Fleury gets to welcome his old friends into Vegas.
I like it.
Which is like a little more anticlimactic, but that's fine. Here's one that I've been picking solely because I was doing some research into this matchup earlier today. Back in 2006, a rematch of the 2006 Stanley Cup Final, the Carolina Hurricanes and the Edmonton Oilers. That old rivalry gets to get lit back up again.
Okay.
What were you looking at that day?
Sure, Carl. Honestly, there's not much going on that game.
Yeah.
That's probably the one I would have picked. But I never would have remembered that was the 2006 Stanley Cup match.
I was trying really hard to write. I was writing. If anyone on my trivia team is listening, then you get a little bit of a spoiler on what's going to happen. I was writing around for my trivia team, do trivia, and I don't remember how I got onto this topic. There is a former Edmonton Oiler that is now a physician in Edmonton. That's how I got onto the topic. Randy Gregg, I believe his name is. Randy Gregg. He won 5 cups with the Oilers. He was on that juggernaut team. Won 5 Stanley Cups, then went into doctoring and is now a doctor in Edmonton, and that's what led me down this path. Edmonton Oilers. Cam Ward won the Conn Smythe that year.
That's right.
Eric Stoll led the team in playoff points. Rob Brindamore was the captain.
That's right.
The ultimate player coach.
The ultimate player coach.
Yeah.
You think he can still suit up today?
Oh, Rod the Bod? Yeah.
Is he not their head coach?
Yeah, he is.
Oh.
For sure Rod could suit up.
I want this to happen so bad.
How last second of an injury would it have to be for... I know that we don't get emergency... you get emergency goalies all the time. We should be able to have emergency skaters.
I feel like for Rod Brindamore, it wouldn't have to be that last second. He's always got his gear under the bench, just in case.
He's tripping guys coming off the bench or off the bus. He's like, "Oh no, you're hurt.
Yeah.
Guess I got to suit up."
Oh, coach, you dropped your banana peel.
Yeah. Why are you gluing everyone's skate guards on? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Super weird.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Those are our Pavel Bure's. Hopefully, for those of you who send them in, some people send them in all at once. For those
Smart.
of you who did, hopefully I didn't confuse. Nick was on top of it. He knew what I was talking about with the Islanders of Washington. Hopefully, you also could stay on top of what I was talking about. But brings us to the end of this week. Thank you very much to Nick for coming into town.
Thanks for having me. Calder's great.
Sorry that we couldn't bring a Joel in for you. Work called, and he had to disappear for that.
Yeah, definitely had nothing to do with the leaf loss.
It had absolutely nothing to do with the fact that he would have had to face the music on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, we should have put a bet on it. I know you and I. We usually the Leafs and the Wings and the Avs only play twice a year now.
Yeah,
and so it's nice and easy for us to do that. By the way, have you watched your video?
You know what? I just remembered that I have to do that.
Yeah.
So that's on the radar. I totally forgot about that.
Don't think that I didn't.
No, clearly you haven't.
No.
So no, that video needs to be watched.
Yeah. Well, we will stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Nick will be watching a video here soon.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are looking for more podcasts, well, Nick's watching a video. It's 45 minutes long, which is a good length podcast, right? Head to albertapodcastnetwork.com. You can find more great podcasts. You can find hockey podcasts. You can find the Hockey Feels podcast. You can find podcasts about politics, if you want to learn about politics. How do you feel about the arts?
I love the arts.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, define the arts. It's very vague.
Dance?
I like dance.
Okay.
I don't dance.
Right. But would you go, a ballet? Would you go to a ballet?
Yeah, I'd go to the ballet.
Okay, I wouldn't. But that's because, it's not that I don't, no, it is that I don't like it because I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, I don't really understand it either, but I'm still pretty fascinated by
the things they do are very impressive. Yeah. So there's podcasts for you for that. Literally anything, if you're like, man, I want to know what's happening. I want some history podcasts. I want to know what's happening in and around Alberta. I want that. The albertapodcastnetwork.com is the place for you to go. They also have a ton of great events that they're putting on. albertapodcastnetwork.com/events is your place to go for that. Head on over there. Obviously, We are very excited to be part of such a great group. I believe there's 41 podcasts on the network now. They're blowing up. So
It's halfway through the NHL season, 41 games.
41 games, 41 podcasts. That would be a dangerous thing for them to start from zero and try to add 82 podcasts by the end of the season.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that would be unsustainable, some would say.
Yes.
And that's good because they only pick the best quality of podcasts. You would definitely be like, we need someone for this day. What would be like the player coach equivalent of a podcast? We need that, right?
Oh yeah. There's definitely 41 other podcasts out there.
Oh yeah, there's definitely 41 other Alberta podcasts, but you're looking for, whoever will show up. So
yeah, exactly.
You're getting warm body territory at that point. And that's not the Alberta Podcast Network way. So head on over there. The fourthlinepodcast.com has some great content from our fantastic writers. I know Ben did a halfway preview, no, a review. That's what it's called when you look backwards, Nick. It's called a review of the Buffalo Sabres season thus far. And so you can head on over there and check out what he had, as well as many other great pieces. Thank you to Nick. Thank you to me. We miss you, Joel.
Boom City?